Hello everyone and welcome back to Fluent by Story, the channel where history, language, and storytelling come together to boost your English fluency and expand your mind. Today we're diving deep into one of the most chilling and fascinating real-life stories of the 20th century. This is not fiction. This is the true rise and catastrophic fall of Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria, a man who built a multi-billion-dollar drug empire, waged war against his own country, and died on the rooftops of Medellin after years of bloodshed and pursuit. From his humble beginnings in rural Colombia to becoming the most feared narco-terrorist in the world, Escobar's life is a lesson in ambition, power, corruption, and consequences. Listen closely, pay attention to the vocabulary and sentence structure, and try to follow the rhythm of the storytelling. This is advanced English, real history, and powerful narration, all in one long-form story. Let's begin. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria, born on December 1, 1949, in the modest town of Rio Negro in Antioquia, Colombia, would ascend from the shadows of rural poverty to become the most notorious and powerful drug lord in modern history. A man who embodied the paradoxes of generosity and brutality, loyalty and betrayal, fear and admiration, whose very name became synonymous with narco-terrorism and whose empire would shake not only the Colombian state but reverberate across global law enforcement and geopolitics. The son of a humble farmer and a schoolteacher, Escobar was raised in nearby Medellin, a city that would later serve as the stronghold of his burgeoning cartel and the stage for both his rise to obscene wealth and his catastrophic descent into infamy. For even in his youth, Escobar exhibited a curious blend of charm, ambition, and defiance, engaging first in petty crimes such as smuggling stereo equipment and forging diplomas, before graduating to car theft, extortion, and ultimately discovering that the true currency of the underworld lay in the burgeoning drug trade of the 1970s, when demand for cocaine in the United States exploded exponentially. Seizing upon this unregulated and wildly profitable market, Escobar, a master strategist cloaked in the demeanor of a streetwise entrepreneur, partnered with criminal associates to establish complex trafficking routes, initially ferrying shipments of coca paste from Peru and Bolivia and refining it into pure cocaine. In clandestine laboratories hidden in Colombia's dense jungles before smuggling the product through planes, submarines, and later by corrupting airport officials and border guards alike, into the ravenous markets of Miami, Los Angeles, and New York, where a single kilogram of cocaine could yield millions in profit, thus forming the backbone of what would become the infamous Medellin cartel. A vast and intricate criminal network under Escobar's iron-fisted command that at its peak controlled over 80% of the world's cocaine supply, earning him billions of dollars annually, so much so that Escobar reportedly spent thousands each month just on rubber bands to bundle his cash, and wrote off millions in spoilage as rats chewed through stored bills hidden in the walls of rural hideouts. With this staggering fortune, Escobar transformed from a local outlaw to a mythical figure whose influence permeated every stratum of Colombian society, buying the loyalty of peasants through philanthropy and fear, funding housing projects, soccer fields, schools, and even churches in Medellin's poorest barrios, thus earning him the affectionate nickname El Patron, and establishing his dual image as both a Robin Hood-like benefactor and a cold-blooded warlord. for while he built homes for the homeless, he also orchestrated assassinations of journalists, judges, police officers, politicians, and anyone who dared oppose his dominance, popularizing his infamous motto, plata o plomo, silver or lead, whereby targets could either accept bribes or face bullets. His ascent to political ambition became evident in the early 1980s when, using the cover of legitimate business and influence within the Liberal Alternative Party, he secured a seat as an alternate member of the Colombian Congress. But this brief flirtation with institutional power unraveled quickly when investigative journalists, most notably Guillermo Cano and later presidential candidate Luis Carlos Galán, exposed his drug ties, leading to his expulsion from office and igniting a personal vendetta that would plunge the nation into an era of unparalleled violence, as Escobar retaliated with a campaign of terror marked by the assassination of Galán, the bombing of Avianca Flight 203, and a relentless war against the Colombian government and the rival Cali cartel. His empire's impunity, however, began to erode as international pressure, particularly from the United States, intensified, prompting a controversial policy of extradition to American courts which Escobar feared more than death itself, leading him to wage an open war against the state, resulting in thousands of deaths, and ultimately culminating in a bizarre truce wherein the Colombian government allowed Escobar to design and reside in his own prison, the luxurious yet grotesquely ironic La Catedral, complete with a soccer field, bar, jacuzzi, and waterfall, from which he continued to run his operations with impunity until political embarrassment and public outrage forced the government to attempt a transfer in July 1992, prompting Escobar's escape and initiating the final chapter of his reign, one characterized by desperation, betrayal, and a cat-and-mouse chase orchestrated by Colombian special forces, CIA operatives, DA agents, and a vigilante group known as Los Peeps, people persecuted by Pablo Escobar, many of whom were financed and aided by his former allies within the Cali cartel and the Colombian police, who used advanced surveillance technology, human intelligence, and even intercepted phone calls to triangulate his location. By this point, Escobar's empire had begun to fracture under the weight of relentless pressure, internal dissent, and mounting casualties, and the once untouchable kingpin found himself isolated, paranoid, and increasingly erratic, hiding in safe houses and relying on a shrinking circle of loyalists as his enemies closed in. On December 2, 1993, one day after his 44th birthday, Pablo Escobar was finally located in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin, where an elite task force stormed his hideout following a traced phone call to his son, and in the ensuing gun battle on the rooftop, Escobar was shot and killed, though whether he was taken down by police or chose to take his own life remains a subject of controversy and folklore. His death marked the symbolic end of the Medellin cartel and ushered in a new era of Colombian drug trafficking dominated by the Cali cartel and later paramilitary and guerrilla-linked organizations. But Escobar's legacy, brutal, contradictory, seductive, and haunting, endures in the collective psyche of Colombia and the wider world, immortalized in countless books, films, documentaries, and television series, where he is alternately portrayed as a genius criminal mastermind, a tragic anti-hero, a terrorist, and a product of social inequality, whose life serves as a chilling reminder of how unregulated ambition, systemic corruption, and global demand can conspire to create monsters who rise not just from the underworld but from the very fabric of a society desperate for hope, identity, and control, and whose fall, spectacular and violent, did not merely mark the end of one man's dominion, but revealed the fragility of a state under siege and the enduring consequences of turning crime into empire, charity into propaganda, and power into paranoia. And that brings us to the end of the story, the long, dark, and tragic journey of Pablo Escobar, a man who built cities with one hand and destroyed them with the other. A criminal who became a legend, and a legend who became a ghost. Escobar's rise showed us the power of vision and strategy, but his fall reminds us that no empire built on blood and fear can last forever. We hope this story helped you practice your English listening and understanding, and gave you a deeper view of how real-life history can shape a nation and the world. If you learned something new today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves English stories and world history. This is Fluent by Story, where stories speak louder than grammar books. See you in the next video. Keep listening, keep learning.